4 students die in bridge collapse at Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University. President commiserates. Federal court to rule on DSS application to detain for 90 days Revolution Now convener Omoyele Sowore. In international news, Texas residents and more Americans mourn victims of El Paso mass shooting. And in sports, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu says Lagos is committed to hosting Under-20 Women's World Cup.
This is ANN News.
I am Lucy Adeyemi. Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University remains shut today after 4 students lost their lives on Tuesday when a link bridge they were crossing collapsed. President Muhammadu Buhari has commiserated with the families of the deceased. Reports say heavy downpour on Monday night may have weakened the bridge. In a statement on Tuesday, the president described the incident as tragic and unfortunate. A statement by the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Muhammad Ahmed Abdulaziz, on Tuesday said, while full details of the occurrence are being awaited, the university would be closed in honor of the victims. It will be reopened in 2 weeks. The Department of State Services has made a court application seeking to detain African Action Congress presidential candidate Omoyele Sowore for 90 days while it conducts investigations. DSS lawyer Gio Agbadua urged Justice Taiwo of the Federal High Court in Abuja to grant the application to detain Sowore beyond the 48 hours prescribed by law. Sowore was arrested over the weekend after calling for a nationwide protest against what he described as bad governance. The protests he called Revolution Now were to have taken place on Monday. He was arrested 3 days before the event. The matter has been adjourned till Thursday. Justice Taiwo said that would give him the time needed to watch a video clip attached to the application before delivering a ruling. Founder of the Igbo Youth Movement, IYM, Evangelist Elliot Ugochukwu Uko, has said the arrest and continuous detention of Omoyele Sowore is, quote, bad news for the political health and image of Nigeria, end quote. Sowore, leader of the Revolution Now movement, is currently being held by the Department of State Services, DSS, for alleged treason. Ugochukwu Uko, who is also the Secretary General, Eastern Consultative Assembly, ECA, as well as Deputy Secretary, Igbo Leaders of Thought, ILT, said the clampdown on demonstrators point to a lack of respect for the democratic rights of citizens. He reminded Nigerians about the Occupy Nigeria demonstration of 7 years ago that shut down Lagos and Abuja. He said, the international community remembers that event as well. He said President Goodluck Jonathan did not accuse the demonstrators of plotting to overthrow his government. He demanded the immediate release of Sowore and his colleagues. The era is over for commercial motorcyclists or Okada riders in Ogun State to carry more than 1 passenger at a time. A resolution passed yesterday during plenary has called on the state government to urgently check the excesses of Okada riders to stem rising cases of road crashes. The resolution also seeks to ensure Okada riders comply strictly to road traffic laws and regulations against overloading and reckless driving to protect commuters and other road users. Many lawmakers said motorcyclists because a large percentage of road accidents because of recklessness and non-compliance with road traffic rules. Immediate past governor of Lagos State, Akinwumi Ambode, may be out of sight, but not out of the news, especially legal news. Justice Chuka Obiazo of the Federal High Court in Lagos has ordered the freezing of 10 billion naira said to belong to Lagos State government, but linked to Ambode. The judge gave the order following an expurgated application filed by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. The commission says it requested the account be frozen while it completes an investigation and possible prosecution of Adewale Adesanya, permanent secretary in the office of the chief of staff to the former governor. The FCC said in an affidavit that one of its operatives had stated there was a huge inflow of almost 10 billion naira from the state account into an FCMB bank account opened in September last year. During Ambode's term, the commission said the account was operated by Adesanya. It was further stated that the schedule of the FCMB account showed how Adesanya and other signatories to the account made fraudulent transfer from the account of the Lagos state government and dissipated the funds in the account. He said the commission needs the order to ensure the funds would not be cleared out by the time investigation concludes. Justice Obiozo granted EFCC's application to attack the account concerned. He also adjourned further proceedings to September. A 7-day-old baby must have divine hands on him as he escaped death after falling into flood waters in Port Harcourt. He had slipped off from his mother's arms and landed in a flowing flood waters but was rescued alive. The incident was said to have happened after the mother left the hospital where the baby was just circumcised. The young mother was said to have missed her step and fell into a drain, causing the child to slip off her arms. Passers-by were said to have rescued mother and baby and took them back to the hospital. Coming up, African stories. UN intensifies its emergency aid appeal for Zimbabwe. Says more than 5 million need food aid. And later, international news. Americans mourn victims of a Paso shooting, seek answers to gun violence.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to African stories. The United Nations has intensified its emergency appeal for Zimbabwe after Cyclone Idai hit the country, devastating farmlands and crops. UN warns of starvation, saying more than 5 million persons, almost a third of the population, will need food aid before the next harvest. The southern African country is suffering from the effect of drought, cyclone, and a severe economic downturn. Head of the World Food Programme, WFP, David Beasley, says WFP had increased its appeal to $331 million to help tackle the danger. Beasley says the drought in Zimbabwe is unlike any that was seen in a long time. This year's maize harvest failed, and the government estimates that by the time of the next one in March, half the country will need food aid. Zimbabwe is also battling inflation that has become so bad the government has stopped publishing official figures. Main opposition party says it will take to the streets in demonstrations next week to protest against the government handling of the economy, including shortages of foreign currency, fuel, bread, as well as 18-hour power cut that the opposition says has plunged most citizens into poverty. Hundreds of people marched in Cameroon's capital demanding to know the whereabouts of imprisoned relatives who were moved to unknown locations last week after a riot inside a large Yaoundé jail. The prisoners were moved a week after a riot in the Kadungu Central Prison. Detained separatists from Cameroon's English-speaking regions and jailed opposition members took possession of the prison yard to denounce overcrowding, deplorable conditions and lengthy trial delays. The prison, built for 750 inmates, was holding more than 6,008 times its capacity. The government says after the riot, some 250 prisoners were moved. Separatists went on social media to warn the government of consequences if it did not disclose the locations of the detainees within 5 days as of last Wednesday. Government spokesperson Rene Emmanuel Sadi says the inmates were taken out of the Kadungu prison because of the role they played in the riot, in which a part of the facility was charged and many inmates were injured. He added that some of the inmates were in more secure detention facilities in Yaoundé, while others were moved elsewhere to make the prison less congested. Rights group Amnesty International has called on authorities to improve the grim prison conditions. It also called for the release of anyone detained only for peaceful protest and ensure that every person held past the legal period of pre-trial detention goes before a judge immediately or is released. Kenya plans to introduce air transport connections between Kenya and Jamaica. This was announced during President Uhuru Kenyatta's state visit to the Caribbean nation. Kenyatta told Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness that flight from Africa's east coast to Jamaica will help deepen economic ties between Caribbean countries and the African continent. Prime Minister Holness said Kenya and Jamaica have had strong ties from the days of Marcus Garvey, whose teachings of African unity had a strong impact on Kenya's push for independence from Britain in the 1960s. The Kenyan president was the chief guest at the 57th Jamaica Independence Day and the 67th Denver Agricultural, Industry and Food Show in Clarendon. Becoming a successful baker requires the right knowledge, practice, and skills like attention to detail, organization, patience, and creativity. Some of these skills were displayed at the recent Ghana Cake Fair. Reporter Nabi Ahmed Rufai was there.
Adding definition touches, Ruth Odita is a baker from Nigeria taking part in this year's Ghana Cake Fair held in Accra.
Everybody coming around to taste our product and they want to buy. Look at the exhibition. We came with our product all the way from Nigeria. A lot of purchase. They've been buying. We brought in money in our pockets. The alert has been coming steady. Honestly, I am very happy.
It's a delicious display of carefully crafted designs, and the bakers here compete with one another to come up with the most artistic and unique cakes of all different shapes and sizes.
We have done a lot of the cakes that people don't know we do. So today, as the fair is going on, they are seeing that we can do other cakes aside desserts for functions and the rest.
It's a big platform that will get people from all walks of life to come and then see what we do and also to want to buy from us. I mean, it's absolutely the best platform to want to showcase yourself as a baker.
For pudding lovers, it's a time to sample what's on display at the cake fair. Bakers here say the red velvet tops the list of orders they receive, and they're exploring ways of making the taste of the cake better and healthy for consumers. The event is not only being used to showcase the talents of these bakers, but also serving as a platform to boost their business.
We are seeking to help growing entrepreneurs and also growing baking businesses in Accra. A lot of people in this country, they complain they don't have jobs, so they rely on entrepreneurship. So a lot of them are bakers, and they need that platform and that push to push their business.
As the bakers get more creative with their designs, they say they hope their business sees a significant boost.
return, international news. Victims of El Paso mass shooting mourned as Americans seek solutions to gun violence. And later sports. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu expresses Lagos State's commitment to hosting the Under-20 Women's World Cup.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. On the foreign scene, U.S. President Donald Trump is currently visiting one of the sites of the mass shootings, Dayton, Ohio, where he was met by protesters who stand against what they say is this enabling rhetoric for hate. Trump will leave for El Paso, Texas later, where he is expected to deliver a message aimed at national unity and healing. Many say his message will be compromised by his own incendiary anti-immigrant rhetoric that mirrors language linked to one of the shooters. Trump is between a rock and a hard place as he tries to console two families and the nation when many in the country criticize him for contributing to heated climate that could have encouraged violence. White House officials say the president just wants to grieve and pray with these communities and offer condolences. In the Texas border city of El Paso, some residents and local Democratic lawmakers and presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke said Trump was not welcome and urged him to stay away. The mass shooting in El Paso, Texas has deeply fractured life in the city. Some of the victims are Mexicans who had crossed the border to shop. El Paso residents and affected families in Mexico are mourning the death of family and friends in the border town. Dan Williams reports.
El Paso is a city, a community united in grief. But as this makeshift shrine continues to grow, so does the death toll following Saturday's horrific attack. This is now the scene of one of America's worst mass shootings. Although El Paso-born candidate to become the Democratic Party's presidential nominee, Beto O'Rourke, says the community remains strong.
We are not afraid. We're strong, we're confident, we're hopeful, we're courageous. And that's El Paso.
Among those who witnessed the attack was Jimmy Volatoro.
It was crazy. There was bodies, people running out of the store. There was deceased bodies on the floor. It was horrendous.
This is a community that has only begun the process of mourning, but as the shock wears off, there is anger too. The city, which is one of the safest in America, is asking itself why it was targeted with such hate.
I don't feel safe anymore. It's hard. I've never seen it so close, and we live in the borderland. I feel even safer in Juarez at this point.
I'm pretty sure I'm not the only Latino in the United States that's an actual American citizen or an immigrant for that case or matter that feels scared. I'm telling you, it could have been any one of us.
It has been a deadly weekend across America, a weekend that once again appears to have exposed this nation's toxic racial divide.
Two Latin American countries have warned their citizens against travel to the United States after 31 persons were killed in last weekend's mass shootings. Venezuela and Uruguay warned their residents about violence and hate crimes in the United States. Uruguay Foreign Ministry says citizens should take extreme precautions when traveling to the United States because local authorities are unable to stop mass shootings. Meanwhile, Venezuelan Foreign Ministry recommends its citizens postpone travel to America in light of violence and indiscriminate hate crimes. The Japanese consulate in Detroit also warned Japanese residents and visitors to be aware of the potential for gunfire incidents everywhere in the United States. The warnings come days after the mass shootings in El Paso, Texas, and in Dayton, Ohio. In the past term, Germany, New Zealand, Canada, Ireland, China, and the Bahamas have also issued travel warning for the U.S. The U.S. Treasury Department has designated China a currency manipulator for the first time since 1994, after Beijing let its currency depreciate Monday, marking an escalation of the trade war. The People's Bank of China said on Tuesday, China deeply regrets Washington's decision. It said in a statement, such a label on China does not meet the criteria set by the U.S. Treasury.
The central parity rate for yuan pulled up and steadied to 6.968 against the dollar Tuesday, after falling to its weakest in more than 10 years on the China foreign exchange trade system. The Monday fall was historical, as is the U.S. Treasury's naming China a currency manipulator for the first time since 1994. China called the decision deeply disappointing and the reasoning flawed.
The move to designate China a currency manipulator is completely unfounded. It neither meets the common consensus of the global community, nor does it fit the U.S. Treasury Department's own criteria for labeling a currency manipulator, so we strongly reject the accusation.
The U.S. side disregarded the facts and unreasonably labeled China a currency manipulator, says a People's Bank of China statement released Tuesday. China is resolutely opposed to this. The same statement also says the yuan fluctuates according to the market. It explains the weakening of the yuan correctly reflects how trade tensions have rattled the currency market and the global economy. It says the U.S. decision could mean further chaos for the global financial system.
Still ahead, sports. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu says Lagos State is committed to hosting the Under-20 Women's World Cup. Stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to sports. The Nigerian Table Tennis Federation has received assurances from the world body, the International Table Tennis Federation (ITTF), that it would continue to support the Nigeria Open. ITTF was apparently impressed by the top-notch organization of the Challenge Plus event and the large crowd it pulled. World Table Tennis Governing Body has commended the Nigerian Table Tennis Federation for doing a great job. ITTF Executive Vice President Dr. Ala Meshref said upgrading the Nigeria Open to Challenge Plus was done as a result of its global acceptance by players. He commended Nigeria Table Tennis Federation (NTTF) and the Lagos State government for their commitment to table tennis. Lagos says it is ready to host the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup finals next year. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu told an inspection team from FIFA and officials of the Nigerian Football Federation who visited him that the city has the will and the capacity to ensure it braces up to meet the requirement for hosting the 10th edition of the competition. He said the state is ready to meet the high standards FIFA has set for hosts in the areas of accommodation, security, logistics, and crowd management. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Lucy Adeyemi. Enjoy your evening.